This is the EMeet S600 and this is the EMeet S800. Let's compare them both and see which one is the best buying option for you right now. This video is sponsored by EMeet. You guys know anytime I get products handed to me or anything like that, I always am transparent with you guys. They're not paying me to say this camera is good or bad. They're legitimately paying me to do a comparison between the S600 and the S800. Harrison Heller has a great saying when he does sponsored videos, which is just to go watch a non-sponsored video after you watch our video, of course, and then you can just make the judgment for yourself. But again, they're not paying me to say these are good or anything like that. So there are things that are bad in the camera or something like that, I'm definitely going to mention it. But in any case, let's hop into the video. So when it comes to unboxing with these two cameras, they're really actually pretty simple unboxings. You could get a book, a cam, and a cable that goes with them, 3.0 cables, of course, because these are both 4K webcams. So both of these webcams pretty much look the same. There are some subtle differences on them. Let's talk about that real quick here. So one of them is looking at the front of the lenses themselves. You're going to notice that the S800 itself has a lot of their specs on the front of it. They're definitely proud of the 1.8 aperture, of course, and then you do get the 4K Ultra HD with the 4x zoom lens in it and everything else. So you can kind of get that there. And then with the S600, it honestly just says EMeet. Simple. Both sides are pretty much similar when it comes to EMeet being on the sides with the logos and stuff. It's just with the S600 itself, it does have their logo there showing off the 4K Ultra HD and all that on the side, where the S800 is just says EMeet. They kept it nice and simple there. Now, when you flip these cameras around to the back, that's where some of the differences start to be shown a little bit more on. The S600, of course, it has all the information of the camera and stuff on the back there, just all that. And I think it's two different languages there as well. But on the S800, it's actually like a cooling system going on there. The camera does kind of get hot, and you know it get hot because, well, it says it right on top of the camera itself. Is another subtle difference. Is top of the camera, it does say caution hot, and I let this camera run for several hours just to see how hot it does get, and it does get pretty warm to the touch. So when they say caution, they mean it. It's not going to burn through you or give you a 30-degree burn or anything, but you're going to definitely notice the temperature difference when you go to touch it. Both cameras do come with quarter thread mounts on the bottom of them. I've mounted them to tripod stands and stuff like that, anything with a quarter thread on it. But they also, if you don't have anything like that, they also just mount to the top of your screens to your monitors and stuff, which are nice too. They clip up there and they pretty much hold, the weight kind of shifts to the back, so you don't have to worry about them falling or anything. And they got the rubber grip in between them, which are just kind of, you know, protecting your screen and all that, especially if you have a nice monitor and stuff. You don't want those scuffs on top of it or anything like that. They also pivot. Both cameras pivot on the front. They have a little axle there on the front, and they pivot up and down as well. But with the S800, one of the biggest differences, and I would say quality of life change they added here, is that it does pivot 360 degrees around. You can just spin this thing wherever you want it, which is nice. The S600 does pivot a pretty good distance back and forth, but if you need to kind of go to a 90-degree angle or 90-degree angle or a 180-degree angle for any kind of reason, you can actually do that with the S800. It's something small, but it is a nice quality of life upgrade that I think they made on this camera. So let's talk about the sensors in both these cameras for a second. So the S600 has a 12.5-inch imaging sensor on it, while the S800 has the Sony 1/2-inch sensor on it. But the biggest life of upgrade for the S800 is going to be the Sony sensor that comes in it. And you know right off the rip, pulling both these cameras out, that the S800 just has a better sensor, because out of the box lighting, if you've ever messed with any kind of webcam, the overexposure on these little sensors is a real deal, and you have to make sure you turn them down, like in OBS or the software it comes with and stuff. And it was actually bearable on the S800. I really kind of still needed to adjust it a little bit, but it wasn't needing to be adjusted as much as the S600 that you see on screen. It was just a huge difference, which makes the coloring's going to be better, the lighting's going to be better, the imagery should be better, like everything across the board on the S800 when it comes to that, because of the sensor, is just going to look a little bit better. So please keep that in mind. The S600 still, with the sensor it's in it, after you mess with the exposure, like I had it in OBS, turned the exposure down and stuff, and got a pretty good quality picture out of it when it comes to lighting and stuff too. So there's still no issues there. Just make sure you know how to get to that from OBS, which is super simple. You just want to go to properties, config video, and then tap over to the second tab at the top right, and you'll see exposure. Just take it off auto and then bring that exposure down to probably a 6 or a 7, depending on your lighting situation. Now, one of the other differences on the camera itself when it comes to the S800 versus the S600 is going to be HDR mode. The S800 does come equipped with HDR mode, which means you're just going to get a better dynamic color, better dynamic everything when it comes to picture quality and stuff like that if you choose to use it. Some people choose to use it, some people choose not to. There's a lot of different factors that go into that, but the S600 doesn't even have that option at all. So that is one of the differences there when it comes to picture quality, 4K and all that. You do get the HDR on the S800, where the S600, you just don't. So let's talk about the autofocusing on both cameras for a second here. So the autofocusing on the S600 has what they call PDAF, and the autofocusing on the S800 has PDAF plus TOF. Now, both of these do play a big role. So the TOF just means that it's good for different distances based on the lighting, and the PDAF it's called phase detection autofocusing, which means it focuses better on moving objects or subjects like myself. So on screen now you're seeing I've done a lot of different tests on the different modes and stuff itself, just showing you what the capability of both these autofocuses are, bringing objects up to the camera, back from the camera, zooming in, out, just all kind of different crazy things, moving around, acting like a full-on camera, of course. But you can see pretty much without a shadow of a doubt, for the most part on every occasion, the S800 just seems like it's a better autofocusing camera. So both cameras do have built-in mics. I actually went ahead and tested both of these mics so you can hear them. Well, let's just play that footage. You can hear the mics and see what they sound like yourself, and we'll come back. All right, so this is a mic test of the S800. Now this is nothing turned off. I got my AC running right here on me. I got my fan in the background. So I just wanted to test out the noise cancellation part of it. Let's turn all that off and then see what it sounds doing the mic test now. All right, so I have my AC shut off. I have my fans on the PC turned down as low as they will go. So this is what it sounds like. By the way, I'm about 2 feet away. This is the S800. This is what these mics sound like on board themselves, just so you get an idea. So let me know what you think in the comments. This is the S600. I'm about 2 feet away from the mic itself. I have no fans running or ACs running. My fans on my PC are turned all the way down, and this is what it sounds like. I'm gonna turn everything back up just so you can get a little bit more of an idea of what it sounds like right now. All right, so I have my PC fans set to default, so they automatically speed up, slow down. This is them at just normal running speed. I do have my AC on now, so if you hear any bit of a difference, that is the difference you hear. This is, again, 2 feet away. This is the EMeet S600. Let me know in the comments below which mic you preferred, and was there a noticeable difference in between both of them, or what you think of them all together, because I haven't listened to it yet, so I don't even know how they sound. Let's get back to it. All right, so we're in the app itself. This is the EMeet Link app. I wanted to kind of give you a quick overview of real quick. Now, if I had anything negative to really say about these cameras and the quality or anything like that, it's really going to be in the app itself. I honestly feel like the app is kind of outdated. There's only so much you can do here. One of the things that drive me crazy about these cameras is the 4K can't be selected from anywhere in here. I guess it's supposed to automatically pick up, but the issue with that is sometimes it just doesn't. When I'm in OBS, sometimes it's 1080. I have to manually switch it, and I think it'd be a good idea for EMeet to introduce some new features into their app itself to where it will actually be able to select 4K and it's saved to the cameras and stuff like that, and we don't have to worry about it. This is, again, the app itself. So up here to the top left, you see I have both my cameras selected up here. Up here is the microphone where you can turn on noise reduction and stuff like that on the S800. You don't have that feature on the S600 we'll look at here in a minute. Here's pretty cool. You can turn on rule of thumbs, and you can actually see I'm not in the rule of thumb. There, we're a little bit better now, but this will just help you kind of get set up, and then you can kind of turn it off before you go live or stream or anything like that. Sometimes you can turn these on and it won't even show up. If you're going to use this camera, you're going to turn this off anyways before you use it inside of, before you use it inside of OBS or something like that, and that won't even show up, so you can keep that on. Autofocus is right here as well. Autofocus in here if you want to turn it off and then try to play with it, get that more of that 1.8 aperture in the background, you can. Really, I just think autofocus is probably going to be your best friend there. Zoom is right here. You can go as close to me as you want, or you can come as far away as you want. And yeah, and that's another thing on this particular camera. If I mess with the zoom at all, you can see as soon as I go in one, some of my areas around me kind of go in a different color. I'm not 100% honest what's going on there, but that was kind of weird. You have your HDR here, customizations. You have a lot of different customizations you can go from. I have it set up just kind of how I would probably set it up, and I would probably add even some more filters in OBS itself. And all here is everything here. Now, auto white balance, my lights around me are 5600 Kelvin, so I always change it. If I were to put it on auto, it was like a 65. And auto, it just doesn't, I look flat and little greenish and stuff. I'm not a big fan of it much at all. So whatever your light you're using, just check and see what the Kelvin is on it, and then switch it to manually be here, and you'll get a better look at your camera almost immediately, by the way. Now, let's look at the S600 real quick. And this is the quality out of the box with it. I kind of set it up. I went through here. One of the things you can probably notice right off the rip, let me kind of angle you down just a little bit more. My exposure is too high. I don't have an option to change it here. I can only change it in like OBS manually, which is fine. But you know, if I want to use this somewhere else and that doesn't have that feature, then I'm kind of just screwed. We could turn on white balance and see if it helps a little bit, but you can see right here on the side of my head and my forehead and stuff, it's just really, really oversaturated. Not saturated, excuse me, over exposed. So I really think that, I mean, that's just a firmware update in my personal opinion on the app itself. So they can come in here and do that. You got a lot of the same features, but you are missing some things like HDR, the exposure again is just missing. That's the biggest thing. You do have anti-flicker on both cameras. You know, US, we usually at the 60 hertz. If you're somewhere like UK or something like that, I think it's 50 hertz. So just keep that in mind wherever you're buying this at. That pretty much wraps it up for the app itself. I think the app is okay. I think it just needs a facelift and just some more features added to it, and it would be much better in my personal opinion. Let's move on. So both cameras do have privacy mode on it, which is just a lens thing. You can kind of turn back and forth to turn on and off. It's just literally just kind of twist it. And of course, we have to talk about Xbox because, well, this is an Xbox channel after all. Do these cameras work on Xbox? Are they plug and play on Xbox? Absolutely. Both cameras do work on Xbox, plug and play, ready to go out of the box. Now, I'm going to say you don't have access to the software or anything like that through the Xbox. So if you're particularly wanting to buy a camera for the Xbox, I'm going to go with the S800 there, just because of the sensor we talked about earlier, how the sensor is just better when it comes to aperture lighting and stuff like that. And you're not going to have to worry about being overexposed and stuff like that. I was saying aperture this whole time instead of exposed, wasn't I? Wow. Anyways, you can get away with the S600 too. You're just going to want to turn the lights and stuff down that are on you and stuff. And that little sensor, the 1/2-inch sensor in there, is just not as good again as the S800 itself. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to lighting situations with both these cameras yourself, I'm just throwing it up on screen so you can actually see the different lighting situations I have going on with both cameras, and you can kind of just see how they work in different lighting situations. I feel like the S800 is just going to do a better job overall, again, just because of the 1/2-inch Sony sensor that is in it versus the S600 itself. But you can see for yourself and make that judgment call yourself. What about recording YouTube video wise, doing production video wise, or anything like that? You know, the S800 has the 4K Ultra HD HDR, the 1.8 aperture lens, all that good stuff, to the Sony sensor and stuff. How does it look on screen if you were to do like a talking head like this? Well, of course, I've been using that the entire time. This has been the S800 for my main camera shot the whole time. I decided just to use this to give you guys and gals an actual look of what it would look like using it long term for a video and stuff like that. So you can kind of just judge that for yourself. Let me know in the comments below which camera you prefer. Big shout out again to EMeet for sponsoring the video. Both cameras will be linked below. Make sure you check those out for the best pricing. I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace and love.